Hey, welcome to Mando and Friends, presented by Verizon. My name is Mando Fresco, and today we are kicking off here with singer, songwriter, world superstar, Alessia Cara. Alessia, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm super excited to have you on the show.
Thank you.
And
I'm excited to be here.
as I told you when we met just a couple of days ago.
Yeah, literally like 2 days ago.
We met at an event and I said, hey, Alessia, I love your music. I'm a big fan. I would love to have you on Mando and Friends. And it was super exciting for me to connect with you and to have you on the show. So thank you again for coming by.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So I want to take it back a little bit to before you dropped here, before you even started recording, before you even stepped into a studio.
Okay.
You grew up in Toronto?
I grew up in a suburb of Toronto, Ontario called Brampton. I was born in another suburb called Mississauga, moved to Brampton when I was 4, and I basically lived in Brampton my whole life. It's like about 40 minutes out of the city. I live in the city now, which is really cool. But growing up, I was just like in a suburban city called Brampton. And it's kind of funny. We get like kind of a bad reputation in the city for we're just known for being very boring, and there were characters. It's like a thing. There's a weird reputation about Brampton, but I'm proud. I rep it. I do.
I love it. That you know of, is there any other public figure from your hometown?
Actually, Michael, do you know Michael Cera, the actor?
Yeah.
Of course, he's like a legend. He's from Brampton, which is so cool and weird, and I'm like really excited to share that with him because he's awesome. So
Have you guys met yet?
no, never. But that's probably the first thing I'm gonna say to him if I ever do. Like, Brampton. It's really cool.
We're from the same hood.
Yeah, it's like so random that he's from there, but yeah.
So take me back to when you first fell in love, like your first memory of falling in love with music, and how did that happen?
I feel like for me it was one of those things where it just felt like it was always ingrained in my personality. I can't even think of a time where it switched for me. It just felt like it was always a thing that I was doing. It was like almost in my DNA in a weird way. I have videos of me like 2 years old, just like singing Celine Dion or trying to sing Celine Dion. And, I was always staring at the TV, watching music videos. And we have like the Canadian version of MTV, which is Much Music. And I used to like just sit there and just watch music videos and play little tapes and CDs that my parents had. And so it was just always something that I gravitated towards that I loved.
I love how it seems like it was just in you. Does your family play instruments too? Are they musicians themselves, or?
My parents are not. They, I came from like a super blue collar family, very far away from the music industry. I have a couple musical family members. Like my grandfather plays the accordion. One of my aunts sings. Another cousin of mine plays music and sings and plays drums. And so it's kind of sprinkled throughout my family.
Yeah.
But never in my immediate household. I think they were just music fans, but it was like very blue collar Italian family, very far away from anything music related.
I know there are families who push their kids to get into music or entertainment because they're sort of living through their children sometimes.
Yeah.
For you, at one point, do you tell your parents, this is something I think I want to pursue?
For me, it came a little bit later than a lot of people I know who do music. I mean, I know so many other artists, like you said, that like started super young, and whether their parents had them do it or they just kind of started performing at a really young age. For me, it didn't start till late high school. I didn't even sing in front of my parents until I was like 15, 16 years
Wow.
old. It took me a long time to just get comfortable. I would do it like in secret. But I didn't sing in front of them until then, and I didn't even want to really pursue it until the Crossroads came between, you know, pursuing music versus going into college or university.
Yeah.
I remember I was like about to graduate high school, and, you know, we all had to like pick our, like apply to different schools. We had to
Right.
apply to like a minimum of 3 schools and pick our programs. And I was just looking at all the options, and I was like, there's nothing that I feel like I'm passionate about other than music. And yeah, so that's kind of when I talked to my parents about wanting to pursue it. And at this point, it had been a year or two that I, you know, had expressed interest to them. So they kind of were aware that I enjoyed it, but it, you know, it wasn't until that time when I was about 18 that I was like, guys, I don't think I can picture doing anything else. They still made me apply to university and college, so I did that. Got accepted into some programs, and I was just really at a crossroads at that point. And I was like, guys, if you just let me take a year off, if nothing happens with my career
Wow.
in a year, then I'll go back to school. So we kind of made a deal where they're like, you have 1 year to try, and if not, like, you got to go to school. So I was like, okay. And thankfully in that year I started recording some songs, and yeah, I guess it's kind of a long story, but yeah, that's kind of how it happened. I like answered way more of your question. It
Yeah,
was like,
no.
I went way too far with it. But.
No, I mean, we got some time. Tell me how you said it's kind of a long story.
Mm-hmm.
So at 18, that's around the time that your first single, you know, goes live and it blows up. How, before you even recorded in here, before you recorded that whole, you know, selection of music, how was that decision making for you when you decide to not go to a university? You know, how, I mean, because I'll tell you, a year is, that doesn't happen.
I know. It's not a lot of time.
It's not
at
a
the
lot of
time I was
time.
like, oh, I got time. Like, I'm going to show them. But a year is nothing, right? So
Now
I
that you
really,
think back,
yeah.
right?
Now that I think back, I'm just like, that's literally nothing. So like going back in time a little bit. So I didn't sing in front of my parents till I was, you know, a lot older, like, you know, halfway through high school. And in that time, once I started getting comfortable singing in front of them, I was like, okay, in my mind, I was like, okay, I kind of do want to try to pursue this, or at least perform for fun. But the problem was I was too scared to do it. So I was like, how do I do this? How do I sing in front of people and try to get out there without singing in front of people, actually? So I thought of posting videos online, just to show my friends and family, just to get feedback. And I obviously didn't think anything was going to come of it. Again, I'm from Brampton, Ontario. I was like, there's no way I'm going to get discovered. I had no intention of getting discovered. I just was like, you know, showing my friends and family at school, a couple of my teachers who, you know, wanted to hear me sing. I just put it up there. And so I was doing that for a couple years. Nothing really happened. I never really had any like viral moments or anything like that.
Wow.
But I did get seen by this girl whose father had this production company called EP Entertainment. She was working at Home Depot at the time and working with her dad on the side. And she was like just scouting the internet and found this video of me singing like a cover, and showed her dad. And long story short, they got in contact with me, and asked if they, you know, could work with me, maybe start recording some songs and just see if I was interested in doing this professionally. So of course I was like, oh my God, yes. But my dad was very reluctant, of course, because he's like, who are these people contacting you on where? Like, where?
Yeah,
Twitter?
yeah, yeah.
Like, you're 16, like, what's happening? So I was like, Dad, please, like, they, you know, they emailed me, they really want to talk to you, like, please. And so I told them, I was like, you know, you got to talk to my dad, like, whatever. So my dad, for whatever reason, agreed to take this phone call. They said, you know, we're really interested in your daughter's voice. We think she has something. Can we fly you guys out to New York to just see if she would maybe want to record some songs? Like, no pressure. Like, it's not about signing. It's not about taking money. It's just to record some songs and try. So it was a very low pressure thing. I don't know what convinced my dad to say yes. I think it was just my begging, just like my puppy dog eyes. He was like, fine, we'll go out. It was a free trip. They were going to fly us out, so we didn't have to pay anything. It was wonderful. We went out. I sang for them. I was terrified, petrified. And throughout the next few months, I kind of just started recording some songs in the studio for the first time and writing with this wonderful writer named Sebastian Cole, an artist as well. We just met, started writing some songs, and I was going, you know, between high school and like after school, I would run to the studio and record these songs. It was kind of I was like living a secret double life. But nothing was coming of it. It was a very low pressure thing. Like I wasn't shopping it out to labels. I was just kind of writing. So then I had like 4 or 5 songs that I really, really loved. A couple of which were Here, Scars. I had like all those songs that are now, some of my, the first songs that I ever put out and the songs that kind of changed my life. I had them written. But I was still in school. I was still in high school. So I knew that I had these songs in my back pocket. I knew that maybe if I had just, if I would give myself the chance to try going to different labels and seeing that I could maybe do it. And I had a few songs that I felt comfortable with, maybe putting out in the world. So because I had that, I was like, Dad, just give me a year. Mom, give me a year.
Wow.
Let me do something with these songs. This production company I was working with was like, if you like these songs, let's try going to different labels and just seeing what happens. So they gave me that year. And in that year, I started taking those songs to a bunch of different labels. Heard a lot of no's, a lot of maybes, a lot of nothing.
Yeah.
And literally, like near the end of that year, the last label I met with, like the last hope, was Def Jam. And I had always grown up loving and admiring Def Jam. Some of my favorite artists were from Def Jam, so I really had my fingers crossed about that one. And thankfully, just the stars aligned right before my time was up, and they wanted to sign me with the songs that I had. They were just demos too.
Yeah.
They weren't produced out or anything. So they signed me with those demos. I remember going in there with my guitar, playing them the songs, and I got signed. So I didn't have to go to college. I was so excited. I was like, yeah. And I was like, I made it for sure. Like, this is my big break. But, it took a couple years after that to really just produce the songs out, get better at performing, figure out, who the hell I was as an artist. I had no idea. I just had a voice and I had demos.
Yeah.
And then Def Jam just kind of got in the mix. I got a manager. All this whirlwind of stuff was happening to me. Produced the songs out with these guys named Pop and Oak. I went in the studio with them, re-recorded all the songs. My voice had changed a little bit, so re-recorded the vocals and put out Here, I think about a year or so later after that. And that's kind of how everything started.
When it comes to you being professionally trained or self-taught, when it comes to singing, how did that work out?
I've never been vocally trained. Even up till this day, I haven't. So I don't know if I'm doing anything right vocally. Hopefully it won't catch up to me.
Trust me, you're doing a lot of things right.
Thank you. Well, maybe sonically. I don't know about internally. I don't know if I'm doing the right things. I hope. I've never been vocally trained, but I did take guitar lessons for a little bit. I think in early high school for a few months. And then I think the guitar school moved away and it was too expensive. So my mom was like, we got to get you out of this. So I just kind of tried to teach myself the rest by ear. But yeah, never really did vocal lessons. It was just always something that I loved to do. So maybe through practice, I got better at it. But I've never taken lessons for that. I probably should. I feel like now that I'm doing it, I probably should kind of learn the right way, but seems to be working.
We don't want to mess anything up.
Yeah, maybe now it'll. Yeah, I don't want to mess with it.
I'll tell you a quick story. I could dance salsa a little bit, right? I could dance pretty well, I would say. I took some classes once, and I came out a worse dancer than I was.
See, because I feel like sometimes if you mess with the natural thing, then you're too focused on the logistics, and then maybe it'll mess it up. Really? So, but do you feel like you have it back now that you stopped the lessons?
Yeah. I kind of just fizzled it out. It was
no
just
way. Really? Interesting.
I was in my head.
Yeah.
I remember trying it out, and I was just thinking 1 and 2 and 3. I came out a worse dancer than I was.
And when you came in,
when I walked in.
Interesting. I feel sometimes when you make things too cerebral, some things aren't meant to be cerebral. They're meant to be more intuitive. And I feel same with dancing, singing, anything music related. I feel it should be more intuitive than it is cerebral. So I guess maybe excluding music theory, but I have no idea about music theory. But yeah, I feel it should feel more intuitive. So I'm almost scared also to go there because I don't want to change anything or become maybe worse. But also I feel at the same time, I just hope that I'm doing it the right way because I don't want to damage anything that's going on in there. But we'll see. Nothing yet, so we'll see.
So I want to talk about Here.
Yeah.
That's the first song that you dropped that, I mean, we could say blows up for you. Radio picks up on the internet. It goes nuts. I feel like it was the introverted anthem that we needed.
Yeah. I've heard that a lot, which is cool. I didn't ever expect it to be an anthem at all or to be heard by anyone. Because like I said, rewind to when I was, writing those songs with Sebastian, I was still in high school, didn't have a deal, didn't even know if I was going to actually pursue this. My parents were just kind of like entertaining me for a bit. I didn't know, right? And Here was one of those songs that came out of those few months just writing and recording. And it was the first time that I've even learned like what writing a song really was. Yeah. And understanding that you can write about something like that and write about what happened to you the day before, and that can be a song. Like I had only heard like love songs or the same few topics. I didn't know that you could just write about anything. And that kind of was the switch for me for the first time, that song where, you realize you could write about those things and expand a feeling and turn it into something that people understand, like taking such a specific experience that happened to me and having it relate to all those people. I just didn't even have the foresight or the knowledge that could be like a thing.
So that did happen.
Yeah.
That scenario, you were in that scenario.
Yeah,
in real life.
I was in that scenario in real life. It was like a high school party. Again, like I was going from school to the studio and like from weekdays at school to the studio on weekends. So this was one of those things where it was like an after school party. One of my friends was having like this like basement jam thing in Brampton. And I never used to go to those things. Like I came from an immigrant Italian family, old school. Like my dad never let me go to those things. But for whatever reason, he allowed me to go this one night. And so I all my friends were drinking. I had never drank before. I hadn't smoked before. All my friends were smoking. Like I just felt like a baby. I was like, what am I doing here? I just remember like having this feeling like all my friends are here, but like I feel so out of place. I felt so like stupid and like so dumb, So I like kind of took that feeling with me to that studio session the next day. And Sebastian asked me like, what did you do yesterday? And I was like, well, I went to this party and I felt like such a loser there. And he's like, why don't we write about that? And I was like, okay. And I just, again, didn't have the knowledge that like you could write about something like that. But we just started, talking about our shared experiences of being at these places and feeling out of place and just kind of envisioning like what those typical parties look like and, what happens at these parties, whether it's people smoking, people drinking, somebody trying to talk to you and someone trying to dance with you. And, I think if it weren't for Sebastian, like he really put like this positive spin on the song and allowed me to like, sing about those things and feel confident instead of like, because the song could have very much felt like I feel like a loser. And it kind of was that, but it also like, he was like, it could just be that that's not your thing and like have some confidence with that. So he really like kind of helped me understand that like I could write about this in like a positive way where it was like, maybe that's just not my thing. Like I'm still cool. Like this is not my vibe, that's kind of how it happened. And I ended up loving the song. I thought it was so fun. It was the thing that ended up changing my life. Unbeknownst to me or any of us in that room, we were just kind of having fun. And a couple years later, it changed my whole world.
I love that. And that's exactly what we get from that song is, it's just not your thing, but you're still cool. You're saying the cool people aren't even cool to me.
Mm-hmm. Kinda, yeah. And I'm glad that I took that approach rather than just like the self-deprecating way. And I do have a lot of self-deprecating songs, but I feel like what made that song kind of an anthem was that it maybe gave people a voice and allowed them to feel like there is a place for them, and it's not necessarily that space, but just because it's not that space doesn't mean that you need to change yourself to fit that, or like it could just be another space. Like you're still cool in your own right, that's just not your thing, and that's okay, so I feel like it kind of that approach really made that song, I think, what it was.
The funny thing is we kind of met at a very similar space.
We did. We did. And we both related to how it was in our thing too, which is kind of funny. Yeah. Still feel the same way about those things, by the way. I think I'm a lot more social than I was, and I can have fun now. I drink now. I still don't smoke because that's just not good for me. But yeah, like I feel like I'm still kind of that person, and it's funny because I feel like we both can relate to that.
Yeah. We were at a party at an event, and we both kind of just connected from the get, because it was one of those things where I don't know if this is like my vibe, but like we vibe. We're cool.
Like, yeah. And I feel like when you connect with people that are on like the same wavelength as you, like you just gravitate towards each other. Like, okay, this is cool. Like, I enjoy talking to you. It was nice. It was a really nice, pleasant encounter, and I'm glad I went.
It was. Cool. I'm super happy as well. My parents are immigrants from Mexico.
Oh, cool.
I want to talk about, you having your family, growing up in a traditional Italian family. How was that? And do you feel like the pressures from that are greater than people who didn't grow up in a household like yours?
I think to some extent, yes, because and I find that with a lot of other Italian families that I know and other friends of mine who are Italian who grew up in the same way. It's very similar in that, there's not necessarily a lot of freedom when you grow up in a family like that, because, traditional values is very much like dad is the boss, kids must go to school, get a job, help provide. There's no like the idea of like party and drinking and going out and like just even I wasn't even allowed to like have sleepovers. I wasn't allowed to go to drive-in movies. Like there's like a list of things. And just became a thing in my friend group where they were just like, oh, we're not even going to invite you because we know you're not allowed to come. It was just that type of thing, a very strict household, which I think kind of helped me at least learn a lot of discipline. So now that I am an artist and I, am living in this lifestyle that can be very, that can kind of take you out of earth a little bit. It's nice to have that grounded family because I feel like I have the discipline now and the understanding of what it means to value life, and I didn't have a lot of money growing up, and I just learning the value of even money and family and tradition and culture. Like I feel like if I didn't have that, I might be kind of like an air balloon sort of floating in this lifestyle, and I feel like that really grounds me now. So I am grateful for it now.
You say that, you when you first started, it was a little foreign to you or you were living two lives, you said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what it felt like.
Do you feel like you're still kind of living two lives? And I'll add to that because I feel sometimes that I am, because I have a foot in the entertainment industry, and then just like yourself, my family grounds me. I'm a big family guy, right? Always hang out with my fam, and it just feels good. It feels. I mean, it's home, and that to me is what I love to do. But also I love to create and and be in that space. So I feel like being in entertainment and having your family, just being so. It being home for you, do you feel like you still are in two separate worlds at times, or has it meshed well for you? And not that it's not meshed well. I guess my question is, do you feel like you're in two different worlds still at times? Yeah,
no, I know exactly what you're saying. Honestly, yes, and I feel like now, yes, and I think it's become a good thing for me. And I'll tell you why. Because when I first started, it was obviously like 0 to 1,000, right? As soon as the song came out, it kind of just changed my whole world. And I was very much like the same person on stage, down to like what I wore, that I was off stage. And I remember like it being in the thick of that and like whatever the hell like fame even was. I remember being jealous of like people like Sia or Lady Gaga or anyone who had like some sort of metaphorical mask or literal mask that they could take off once they were off stage, because then they get to be themselves, and there's a fine line. Like Sia, when she's off stage, she could take the wig off and she is whoever she is off stage. Or Lady Gaga takes off the costumes and she's her, and there's a fine line. So you can become the person and you can be, yourself. And there's no like enmeshment. But I felt like for me, Alessia Cara was Alessia Caracciolo, like at all times. It was like a complete mix. I couldn't find that balance. I just felt like who I was at home was who I was on stage. And then you kind of get lost because you're like, there's no fine line. I can't turn it off. I don't know where I begin and where this artist ends.
Yeah.
And I feel like for me, having that sort of double life or carving that out has really helped me, to be honest, because now I do know the difference between who I am as an artist and who I am as a person. And just because there's no like costume to take off, I still feel like I have a good balance now of when to turn it off emotionally, mentally. And when I go home, I have my dog, I have my family, I have my relationships. And now I'm able to kind of, there's like a little switch, even if it's not a physical switch, it's a mental switch. And I feel like I needed that because for a while I did not know how to turn it off. And it was 24/7. It was just so enmeshed in my life that I did not know who I was outside of music. And it was very scary for a while, like being a girl in your like early 20s or, you know, even your late teens, just not understanding where you begin and where your career ends. It's like very strange. But yeah, so I'm glad for that double life. And I think everybody needs that when you're doing this. I'm sure you understand. Like if you had to keep this thing on all the time, like there'd be no room for your family and the things that you value outside of this, you know? So you really need to have that switch, I think.
I think it's kind of nice because like for you, the way you're doing it, as opposed to kind of having like a onstage persona, because you're just you 100% of the time.
Exactly, which kind of bit me in the ass a little bit. It's great, but at the time it was like, what the heck, you know? I was like, almost like I wish I had a persona so I could know the difference. But I'm glad I did it my way.
Yeah, like you don't have to fake it. You know,
yeah, which is nice.
You don't. I think at this point of your life, right? Like you kind of understand it, and I've seen many things, you know, in the years that I've been in the industry, and how people sometimes feel like they have to fake it or they have to like code switch or become someone completely different. And I see the change sometimes too, where I'm like, hey, you were cool just a little bit ago and now you're just kind of like a different person.
Yeah.
And granted, they don't have to hop on the stage and do anything like that, become a character. But I feel like it's tough even just seeing that some people feel like they have to do that. The fact that, you know, you can just be yourself 100% of the time and people love you for you. I think that's a beautiful thing.
Thank you. Yeah, you know what? I do agree. I think I'm sure the Sias and the Lady Gagas of the world would probably say the same thing. I'm sure there's pressures, you know, its own pressures with having to switch it on and off too, you know? So I think it's kind of like a grass is greener situation, you know?
It's what works for the individual.
For that, yeah, but I'm sure it's hard to keep up a persona too. And if I had to hang up a hat every single night and like, you know, figure out how to be somebody else all the time, that would be a challenge in itself, like having to act. And I am very grateful for the fact that I was lucky enough that I could make it as myself, you know, and not have to live up to the pressures of what it is to be like a star. I can just go up on stage, talk to the crowd and be me. And there is a beauty that comes with that too. So I definitely am lucky in one regard as well.
Do you feel like you have a love or passion for something else outside of music that is entertainment related?
Yeah, I love video as well. I grew up, before I even like, you know, got comfortable singing in front of people, I was always like, I always had a camera in my hand. I always was like filming video, editing video, making like little commercials with my brother and like doing little dumb videos and editing them and adding sound effects. Like I loved video editing and just video in general. To this day, I'm still really passionate about it. And I'm heavily involved in the video process of my career, which is great. Like I'm glad that I enjoy that too, because I like to just be involved. And and my brother does it now for a living. He's in film school, so we get to work on projects together, which is cool. Awesome. So I'm really passionate about video and film and editing specifically. Like I think that's
awesome. Well, we need another editor, Fred.
Listen,
right?
I will do it.
Can we use another editor?
Listen, right, don't promise me that, because I will show up here tomorrow. Like you said,
you're hired.
I love it. Genuinely, I love it. So yeah, that's something I've always loved too. So if there's any way I can incorporate that, like I'm always looking to find new ways to be creative in my career.
That's amazing. I'm sure that comes in handy when you're creating music videos.
Totally. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I love, writing treatments and helping with the editing and like even color grading. Like I love color grading
Wow.
video, and like I'm really passionate about just the way that videos look and when to cut a scene and just the art of that. Like I think editing and cinematography is like super underrated.
Do you like edit yourself sometimes?
I do, yeah.
You do?
I really, really do. All like my BTS videos, I edit myself. I even like my music videos, like this last music video me and my brother did, we edited it ourselves, like in his room.
Wow.
I love doing that, and yeah.
What are you editing on?
What am I editing on? We edit when it's with my brother. We edit on Premiere Pro.
Nice.
I'm trained in Final Cut, which is it's good, but it's also kind of the worst because rendering takes like 70 hours. But I like Final Cut. I'm learning Premiere through my brother. And sometimes a good old iMovie still works, even though it's not the best. But yeah, Final Cut is
iMovie it was clutch.
It is clutch. It comes clutch when you need it, except the titles. I don't like that there's no option to like not fade a text. Like sometimes I just like a text to pop up, and iMovie doesn't have that. So that's when you go to the Final Cut. Or
Have you tried DaVinci?
No.
Oh,
I
DaVinci's
haven't.
good. Yeah.
I haven't even heard of DaVinci. I gotta
DaVinci's
get my
free.
editing game up. Really?
It's free, and you don't have to render.
Really?
Yeah.
No
Yeah,
way.
We
Is that what you guys use?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, we're on DaVinci now. We went. I think it was like Final Cut to Premiere.
I went from Final Cut in Cal State LA, and then when I switched over here, I switched to Premiere Pro, and then
Yeah.
I switched to DaVinci.
Premiere to DaVinci.
No
DaVinci's the
way.
move. Try it out.
I definitely
Tell
will.
your bro. Tell your bro.
I'm gonna tell him because I always like hear him pulling his hair out at Premiere Pro. I don't know a lot about Premiere Pro, but he's always like, Premiere keeps crashing. Okay, yeah, good. Okay.
Yeah, DaVinci doesn't crash.
Good. God
and,
bless. Okay, I'm gonna.
Subscription,
Really?
not a subscription, it's free.
That's
Yeah.
I need to.
Yeah.
I need to
Color
get that.
grading's amazing on there.
Really? Okay, good. I'm gonna switch over actually.
Yeah.
I really will because I love it. I'm editing. Me and my best friend do like these little vlog type videos now where we like rate the coffee in LA and we try to find the best coffee in Los Angeles, and I edit those on iMovie, but I gotta get DaVinci.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna try to.
Yeah. It's pretty user friendly from the get. Yeah, especially if you like know all those other programs. Yeah.
Sweet.
be
Okay,
good.
cool. Thank you. I've learned something new. I'm gonna take this with me today.
So the coffee in LA.
Yes.
Where should I go?
Man, we are still looking. Okay. Are you a coffee
I
head?
became a coffee connoisseur in the,
okay.
in the last couple months.
God bless you. Are speaking my language. Okay, so the place that we found right now, the best place that we found, and this is still an ongoing search, so don't, this might not be the best in LA.
So far.
But have you ever been to Coffee Commissary?
No, but I've heard of it.
You have to go there. If you like burritos, like breakfast burritos, you have to have their breakfast burrito. It's called the Angelino or Angelino burrito, and they're just like their good old, their coffee is so good. That's the best place we found. I just like I don't know if you do lattes or espressos or.
I'm a latte kind of
Okay,
guy.
get their latte, their iced lattes. So good. That's the best place we found. Sightglass is also really good. What else is good? I think Sightglass is downtown, or maybe not. I think it's around here somewhere.
I believe so. I haven't been to that one. We're in the arts district now.
Okay.
Zinc is really good.
Zinc. Okay, so that was my next question. I was gonna ask you what's good. Zinc.
Zinc. So Zinc sells food too, but they're like coffee is low key really good.
Really? Okay.
And then there's a spot called Maru, Maru. That's pretty good too. Check it out.
I think I've had Madu before. I think. Is that in Los Feliz?
I think they have.
Oh, it's
a
right
few.
here. Okay,
They
so
have
there's a
few.
couple. Okay. I've been to the one in Los Feliz, I think. I'm pretty sure it was Madu.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go. I haven't had my morning coffee yet either, so I'm gonna go
Yeah.
directly there.
And
Cool.
I love that you're on a quest to find some good coffee in LA.
Yes. Anyone watching in the comments, please let me know because I'm on an ongoing quest. It's like a serious thing. We're very serious about it.
So since you're in LA, there's a big Mexican community here in Los
Mm-hmm.
Angeles. There's a coffee called Café de Olla.
De olla. Okay.
Café de Olla. And de olla just means from a pot.
Okay.
And they have they put like cinnamon sticks and like orange with the orange peel, and a few other things that makes it Amazing. So if you ever see Café de Olla on the menu, try it out.
Absolutely. Oh my God.
Amazing. It doesn't even need sugar or anything. It's just.
That's how you know it's good. When it
Chef's
doesn't
kiss.
need sugar, that's the go-to. Ooh, thank you. I never even heard of that. I love Mexican cuisine too and Mexican culture. I'm definitely gonna look for that. Café de olla.
De olla.
Olla. Okay.
Do you have a favorite type of food?
I honestly love a bunch of different foods, but Mexican is honestly up there. I love like carne asada tacos are like one of my favorite
nice.
food of all time. Like like anytime that I see that on the menu, that's what I'm getting. Like carne asada tacos. I love carnitas tacos too. The one with, is that the one with the pineapple? Sometimes
That's
they do it.
pastor.
El pastor.
El pastor.
El pastor. I love that too. Yeah, any type of Mexican food is like my favorite. I actually had when I went to Mexico. Have you ever had escamole?
No, escamole?
Yeah, it's like I thought it was like a rice. It's actually like little worms.
Little worms?
Like it's like little worms. It's like a delicacy, but it was so good. And I didn't know that I was having it till after. So I don't know if I'd have it again just because now I'm like thinking back to like in my head, but it was honestly so good. It was like one of the best dishes I've ever had in my life. It's called escamole. It looks like almost like a rice or like a little quinoa dish or something, and they're like little worms. But honestly, the way that it was prepared when I had it in Mexico, it was delicious.
What part of Mexico? Do you remember?
We went to Mexico City, and there was another part. I don't know if it wasn't Tijuana. Oh, what was it called? I can't remember. It was Mexico City and another part that was near Mexico City. I can't remember what it was called, but it was beautiful.
Yeah.
It was one of my favorite trips I've ever taken in my life. I don't think I've ever eaten that much. It was so good.
That's amazing.
I die. Like my stomach's growling thinking about it. I love Mexican food.
I love Mexican food and I love Italian food.
I love Italian food too.
It's like this.
Oh yeah. I think we're like maybe two of the best cuisine. I don't know. Two of the best cuisines maybe in the world. I don't know. I'm just saying. I feel like I don't know.
agree.
Like I feel like we're both up there. I love Italian food and Greek is really good too. But Mexican
I love that
and Italian.
Italian and Mexican food. It's very family, oriented. Very family style for the most part. By the way, you're invited to the carne asada.
Oh, thank you. Yes, that's really why I came here. I just wanted the invite.
Anytime. Yeah. You met me like this guy's Mexican.
I think I might have to get in there. Yeah.
Gotta be his friend.
Yes. Oh, thank you. I'm honored. I'll definitely be there.
You're in an amazing place in your career now. Established. It's crazy because you're still very young, and you've done so much. What would you say is a highlight in your career that stands out a little more than others?
That's a great question. There's a few things for me that I'll always kind of just hold with me that I was like, whoa. I mean, of course, winning the Grammy was like mind-blowing dream, like everything, of course. Like that always will be there by default. But even just like, I remember I had the chance to open for Coldplay like 2 years into my career, which was like so early. And they're like one of my favorite bands, if not my favorite band in the world. And I remember I didn't even know they knew who I was. And the fact that they like welcomed me onto their stage, it was a stadium tour. And I just remember playing for their crowd, like in my early 20s, just thinking like, how is this even happening? And I remember having my family come and watch the show and just being so proud that they were there. And that's always such a big moment for me, like getting to open for Coldplay, specifically like the Wembley Stadium show.
Wow.
It was my brother's birthday and it was raining. And I remember I had the crowd sing happy birthday to him. And it was such a moment. Like I'm just being in their environment. And that was like always something that I really hold close to me. So,
that's beautiful.
yeah.
I can see how much it meant to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it meant a lot. It's
family,
like my mom's favorite
and your
band
fam
too.
being there, I think that's
cherry
on top.
Yeah, definitely. Just again, like we're both very family oriented, so having my family there was like such a big deal for me.
The Grammy, where do you have that?
I have that in my parents' house. They stole it from me. They're like, we get to keep it. I remember my mom came with me to the Grammys, and Lorde was sitting in front of me, the artist. Lorde. And she, like, when I won and I went up there, she apparently turned to my mom and was like, you have to keep the first one. Which thank you, first of all, Lord, for thinking that I'll get any more. Like, that's very bold of you to think. Thank you. But yeah, so she's like, Lord told me I have to keep the first one. So thank you, Lord. My mom has the first one. She's like, because Lord said I have to keep it. So she has it. They have it like on this like mantle on the fireplace in their house. And like everybody who comes over, all my family members, they're like, can we hold it? Can we touch it? So it's like a spot in my family home. That everyone just goes to, and yeah, they're like so proud of it. They like show everybody that comes over. It's like a big deal in their house. So hopefully I do get another one so I could take it with me to my place, because I would love one of my own as well. But I feel like it's in great hands, so
Yeah.
I'm glad.
And you
that they
will.
get to keep
And
it.
you will.
Yes.
How do you feel about awards today?
It's a little mixed. I think a lot of artists share this sentiment. I feel like the value of an award per se has kind of been a bit watered down, I think, due to politics, due to numbers. I don't necessarily think that things that win awards are the most artistic thing. I think it might just be the things that are most popular at the time, me included. Like, at the time, do I think I was the best new artist? No. I think it is kind of due to a lot of numbers games, and I don't necessarily love it. I think the value, unfortunately, has been a bit watered down nowadays. And yeah, my view of it, my love for it has kind of shifted. And I think a lot of artists had to shift their perspective, because if we place all our importance and our value on that award, and if it never happens, like if I never win one again, does that mean I'm not a good artist? No, it just means that, I wasn't the most popular at the time, or, that there's so many artists making music. Like, just because you don't get it doesn't mean you're not good. And just because the artists that do get it doesn't mean that they're not good. It doesn't mean that, like, it's just like,
I know exactly what you mean.
I feel like our value shouldn't be placed on those things. I think it's beautiful and it's an honor. And those people that do get it deserve it, definitely, because popular music, it's hard for music to be popular nowadays. And if you have music on the charts, that's something to celebrate, that you've made it in that realm of success. I think that's a beautiful thing. So I think if you do win, you should be proud and happy. But if you don't, it doesn't mean that your value is diminished, And that's kind of a thing I've had to understand. And I think a lot of artists have had to shift our perspective on that. Because if that's the case, we're all just going to be disappointed in ourselves, because those things don't, they're not everything.
Yeah. And you make beautiful music.
Thank you.
Alessia. And I agree with you. I think one's value as an artist, shouldn't come down to any award. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's nice to get awarded.
Of course, and it should be celebrated. Yeah. Like, those artists who do get it should feel proud, But on the flip side, it's not everything.
One of the songs that you created made it to the Moana soundtrack, which was worldwide.
Yeah.
Huge. Did you meet The Rock? Did you get the chance to meet him at any point or another during that time?
I not during that time, but a couple of years later, we met at like Stephen Colbert. It was like a late night show day. It was on my birthday, and he was a guest and I was the musical guest, and like we passed each other in the hallway, and I was like, "Hey, Moana." He's like, "Hey," and then we took a picture. It was very cool. He was so large, so big, and so sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was like such a nice dude. It was so cool to like be part of that movie. And Lin-Manuel actually wrote the song. Lin-Manuel Miranda wrote the song. So and he like, it was already kind of in the soundtrack, and then they just had me be the voice for it and like reproduce it. But yeah, like I don't know why they thought I was a good fit. I was so honored that they thought that I'd be a good person for the voice of that song. It was like such a big deal for me. And I mean, we love Disney. Everybody loves Disney. So it's such a wonderful moment to be part of that and be part of like a lot of kids' lives. Yeah. Even now, like to this day, I meet little kids that are like, "I love you on the Moana soundtrack," or they think I'm Moana too, because I have the curly hair. Yeah. I've had to like break it to so many kids, like, "Oh, it's not me, but thank you." Yeah, so it's very cool, very cool.
That's beautiful. Do you have a favorite song that you like to perform?
A favorite song? I mean, I of course I love playing Here and Scars, because those are like the first songs that kind of really, made a difference in my life, and the songs that got me started in my career. So it feels very nostalgic to play those, and I know they mean a lot to people. But I love playing just like all my new stuff, to be honest. Like my last album, In the Meantime, listen to it if you...
Yes.
Plug. But honestly, like those songs, I feel like, because there's a lot of up-tempo stuff on there, and there's a lot of guitar-based stuff, a lot of crazy drums. I love playing those new songs, because I feel like there's just a new energy on stage now that I can have, where I can like dance and feel free, which is fun.
Talking about your latest project.
Yeah.
Tell me all about it.
Well, it's called In the Meantime,
Yep.
and I wrote it in the thick of the pandemic, so it's kind of like a pandemic baby. I mean, I guess it started before the pandemic, and then the thick of it was in the pandemic, and I finished it in the pandemic. So I basically worked from home within Canada. I wasn't allowed to leave the country, so I did everything pretty much locally, which was very new for me. But honestly, I'm so grateful that I got to do it that way, because I got to work with a lot of Canadian producers, a lot of great local talent that was I would not have had the chance to meet if it weren't for the pandemic. And I feel like I learned so much about my own skills and vocal production and recording and all that. Like I had to do everything basically from my house in my room by myself, which was like very different for me again. But I feel like I had the chance to rely on myself a lot, and I grew so much throughout that process. Even emotionally, I went through like a really rough time, as we all did in the pandemic.
Yeah.
So the album's just kind of about that reflection and that just weeding out those feelings. So I feel like it was very helpful for me emotionally, physically, mentally, and just skill-wise too. Like it really helped me grow.
How would you say the pandemic changed your way of looking at your mental health, and how are you taking care of your mental health today?
Excellent question. Well, I think we all, to some degree, had our own version of a mental health journey, I think, in the pandemic, because it was a shock. It was a shock to our system, truly. So my version of that was actually pretty intense. I went through like one of the hardest times of my life mentally. I developed panic disorder, which now has a name, but at the time I didn't know what it was. So I was finding myself dissociating, detaching from my body randomly, having panic attacks, anxiety attacks for hours, sometimes days on end. And it got to the point where like I just felt like I was constantly dreaming and I could not get back to myself. And then, because of that, I wasn't sleeping. So I was basically up for hours and hours and days on end, just really having a rough time. And it took me a long time to get out of it. But that time introduced me to therapy for the first time. It introduced me to, well, not really the first time, because I had tried therapy before, but it didn't work. So therapy again. It introduced me to medication that I realized I needed my whole life and I was just scared of or just kind of pushed down because of the stigma around it. It introduced me to just so many different things. And I'm so glad for that experience, because I feel like I'm just so much better than I was. I do therapy weekly. I take medication every day. I'm just way more stable than I was. I'm way more happy. I feel like I'm way more present. It just really changed my whole world. So that rough time really just made me better. And I think to some degree, hopefully it made everybody a little bit better, because I think it taught us all the value of taking care of yourself and the value of what really matters, which is, family, being present, just the little things we take for granted that we couldn't do, which, just spending time with people or just going out to eat, grabbing a coffee, those simple things that we take for granted. In my case, even performing, those things. It just really taught us the value of those things and what it means to be a person in the world and how important it is to contribute in the right ways,
Yeah, for sure. And as an introvert myself, I thought, hey, I'm going to be okay without hanging out with people. But then a few weeks, months, I'm like, wait, hold on. I kind of miss people.
Yeah, like you need people. It's so true. You don't realize that it's so important until you're like, wait a minute. Like it's cool for the first couple weeks. I was like, this is going to be easy. Like, we'll just flatten the curve for 20 weeks. For 2 weeks. It'll be fine. And then, 2 years later, it really gets to you. You're like, it's nice in moderation. But when you don't have that at all, you realize like how important it is. And also how important it is to also like have time to yourself, but like not be distracted all the time, because we live in a world where we're so distracted and we don't even take the time to like see how we're even feeling or check in with ourselves. And when we had that time, we're like, whoa, there's some stuff in here that I've been pushing down that I really need to like figure out, so that was important too.
Thank you so much for that, by the way. I want to acknowledge how important mental health is and how important it is for people like us to talk about it openly.
Yeah.
Because it makes other people seen and it it's more important than ever, you know, to talk about it, especially like your fans, you know, who are young and see you as a big role model, you know. To see someone like you talking about it, it's like it just makes people feel like they're not wrong for feeling a certain way, or you know, normalizing mental health, I think, is a beautiful thing in the time that we're living in.
Thank you. I agree. I think it's important. You know, you can't have shame around it either. I think that's kind of what stops people sometimes.
Yeah.
Is you're ashamed, especially if your life on paper looks great. You're almost even more ashamed because you're like, am I ungrateful? Or I don't want people to think that I'm this or that. But the reality is nobody's exempt from pain in life.
Yeah.
No matter what lifestyle you live, no matter where you're from, what you do. And there's nothing to be ashamed of. In fact, it's like a very powerful thing and it's a strong thing to say, like, I've been through this and I'm still going through it. It's a strong thing to be vulnerable, and it's a strong thing to just go through things and talk about it. You know, like it's an underrated strength and an underrated power to take control of your feelings like that and say, and just own them. Not even take control of them, just own them and acknowledge them. That's a very powerful thing. So there's nothing to be ashamed of, and I'm learning that, and I think it's all a good lesson for us to learn and remember.
I love that.
Yeah.
Dab me up real quick. Okay, so we're going to move into the rapid fire
Ooh.
with Alessia Cara.
Okay.
Are you ready for this?
I am. Okay.
Good luck.
Thank you. I'm nervous now. I don't know how to do rapid fire. I talk way too much. I don't know if I can do rapid. Okay.
1 million more followers or 1 million more dollars?
Ooh. Oh man, dollars. Who cares about followers? At least you can do something with dollars.
Favorite piece of tech that you use today?
Favorite piece of tech that I use today? I knew it. I was not going to be good at rapid fire. My new laptop. I got a new laptop.
Nice. Best singer of all time?
That's the hardest question. Oh man, I don't know. I'm going to say Amy Winehouse just because I love her.
I could kind of hear it in your voice, especially early on. I remember when I first heard Here. By the way, I played Here. That's one of the things I mentioned to you when we met. I played Here on the radio for the first time at our radio station.
That is so cool.
And
thank you for that.
I remember hearing your voice and thinking, wow, like this girl's amazing. And I had these sort of like emotions and tones that Amy Winehouse had.
Oh, cool.
I remember we even wrote an article and I don't remember the context, but we wrote Amy Winehouse in that article.
No way.
When we wrote about Here.
That is crazy. Wow. Yeah, I don't doubt that because she's a huge influence to me. Like, you know, just an inspiration all around, like vocally, lyrically. So I'm sure she comes through a little bit, but at the same time, I'm nowhere near her or as good. So that comparison is always just as shocking as it is flattering and very kind, too kind. But I guess it makes sense because I love her and she's a huge influence to me, especially growing up. So,
favorite rapper?
Ooh, favorite rapper. Oh man, okay. There's a few that I really love. I love Kendrick. I love Nas. Oh man, this is hard. I know Tribe Called Quest is not really one, but Tribe Called Quest.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's such a hard question. Okay, I'll say Kendrick, I'll say Nas, and I'll say Tribe Called Quest, even though they're two people.
Nice. I'll take that. Big Nas or Lil Nas?
Big Nas, just Nas, but Lil Nas is cool too.
he is awesome too.
Yeah.
Best Alessia song to play in a room to bring up the good vibes.
Ooh, the good vibes. Maybe the last song on my last album, Apartment Song. It's really fun, and I feel like you could play it at like a house party and just have fun. Feels
Nice.
like a bright song.
Nice. Can you do a little bit for us?
Sure. It's hard. It's like not a singy song. Okay. Light in my head, turn on in the morning. What a wonderful world it is when you can see it. Tears that I shed turned into glitter on the floor of my apartment. Papa shimmer, I need it. I know I'm a bummer, got no lover, but the color of the sky tonight's so nice, I don't mind. There, I'll just give you a little. I'll give you a little.
Give it up. Thank you for that. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
Lastly, what's a nickname that no one really knows about of yours?
A nickname that no one really knows about. Maybe Liv gotta help me with this. Liv, what's a nickname? I feel like, do I have any nicknames that no one knows? My parents have always called me Ale. It's like, Ale. I don't even think they call me Alessia. I don't think I've ever heard them call me Alessia. Just Ale is what I'm called in my family. Liv calls me Ale. My friends call me Ale. People call me Les in school. I don't know. I feel like, but people maybe know that. I don't know. What's the difference?
How long have you guys known each other for?
Me and Liv, we've known each other since we were 10. We've been best friends since we were 10.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah,
Liv.
we met in the 5th grade, and now we work together, which is so fun.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, but you've just always called me Ale. But what's like, I don't know any other. I'm trying to think of, I don't think I have any like interesting ones. Maybe Ale, that's probably the one. My parents call me Ale.
Ale.
Yeah.
I love that. That's what we call my sister too. Ale.
Oh, really? Is her name Alejandra?
It is.
Yeah, because I know a girl named Alejandra, and her nickname is Ale too.
Well, Ale, I want to thank you for coming by Mando and Friends. I want to thank you for singing a little bit for us too. That was beautiful.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. This was so fun. It's nice just to have a talk. You know, I feel like I haven't done this in a while too, so it's very nice.
Yeah. No, this is your home. Anytime you come to LA, you want to just chat, have a carne asada.
Yes,
you know?
a carne asada and a coffee. That probably grows together, but
Get the coffee, on our way to pick up the carne asada.
Yes. And what was it? Café de olla?
Café de olla.
De olla.
Olla. Pot.
All right.
A pot.
Okay. I'm gonna remember that. Yes, next time we'll definitely do that. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Alessia Cara. Thank you, Ale. And thank you so much for watching and listening to Mando and Friends presented by Verizon.